Hey, welcome everybody. Johnny Vajra here.
Kamela Love here.
Awesome. And we're here to talk about radical acceptance. So, what is radical acceptance? Why do we even need to care about that, Camila?
Well, radical acceptance seems to be one of the best strategies for having a fulfilled life when life presents us with things we don't like and we don't want them to be that way.
Hmm, interesting. Okay. So then pain, it's a part of life. It's just kind of we all experience it. And some people say that suffering is also a part of life and it's something that we all need to experience. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
So, in this world of radical acceptance, as I've dug into it more and more, I've come to understand that suffering and pain are distinct. Pain is what we may feel, feelings like depression or anxiety. Well, really, feelings like sadness or frustration or grief. So we may feel those types of emotions, which we can call pain. Now, what we choose to do with those emotions is the key here. So when we convert them into an experience of suffering, that's where we're not accepting what's happening out there.
Hmm.
Versus we have a situation that we don't like, we're resisting it at first, we realize we're resisting it, and then we choose as a stand, as a choice in life, we choose to accept the fact that it is happening this way. That's the sweet spot of radical acceptance, where we can feel emotions like pain that are associated with pain without going into this suffering experience where we're just completely resisting and not accepting what's so in life.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, so this seems like this would be a really powerful skill to have in our repertoire, like a good, strong muscle flex.
Right?
So, okay, so when, just to get real clear on it, like when would we want to be practicing this skill?
Right. So the times in life where you're feeling like you don't like what's going on, we
Okay.
all have these times all the time where we're perceiving something and we're saying it shouldn't be that way. It should really be a different way.
Mm.
Those are the moments that we want to intervene. So when we have a problem, right? There's a problem in life. Well, first, we can try to solve it. That's normally what we would do as humans. We try
Right.
to solve it. So
Sure.
then we reach the place where we can't solve it. There's a problem we can't solve. That's when we start looking at, okay, I have the choice to radically accept this problem I cannot solve.
Okay. I see. So first we have the problem. We're trying to solve it. We can't solve it. Then maybe like if we can't solve it, there's some other things that like breath work or some type of a release that may take place that we can feel, just maybe closer into our body. We try and change our perspectives on the situation and do a little bit of that work. And then from there, okay, it's still not working. Like what, then where do I go? All right, well then after that, then that's where we go into that space of just kind of putting our hands up and saying, well, I just got to accept this because it is what it is.
Right, right. You put in a really good point in there too, which is we can try to change our perspective around it. That's a good step. So we've got a problem, we try to solve it, we can't solve it because it's outside of our control. It's somebody else's actions, behaviors that is bothering us usually. So we try to solve it, we can't solve it. Then what you said is really important. Can I change my perspective of this situation? Is my perspective of it what's getting me down? So if I can shift into a more positive perspective, a more empowering perspective, boom, that might be problem solved as far as my experience of the situation, right?
Right.
So I love that you put that in, Johnny. And then let's say we get to the point where we can't change it, can't solve it, and we also can't change our perspective of it.
Mhm.
That would be the point where, well, it's time to radically accept this thing.
we need to hit the radical accept button.
Boom.
Right.
Yeah, and it is a choice just like that. It's like,
Yeah.
do we want to hit the radical acceptance button because we realize that there's freedom in that. It's the route out of suffering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And that's where we can understand that suffering is a choice. And even if we're in a space where, we talk about the Cartman drama triangle, where it's the victim, perpetrator, and the hero. If we choose to be the victim on that triangle, then every time we can say, well, I don't have a choice because this is happening to me, and this is just the way it's happening. It's always been that way, and there's nothing I can do about it. And so in that moment where and there's nothing I can do about it, that's when we hit the radical acceptance button.
That's right. It gave me shivers how you just said that, because it's true. It's that moment when we've basically tried everything else. Mm-hmm. So in a sense, it is a last stitch effort, and it's really the solution. That's the key part, is this difference of accepting something versus not accepting something. We all know what it feels like to stay in resistance and not accept a situation in our life. It's the thorn in our side that just keeps bugging us.
Right.
So we create this ongoing experience of total disempowerment, frustration, and no possibility. It's that space of, I can't do anything. Like you said, I can't do anything. Mm-hmm. Total disempowerment.
Yeah. Okay, right. And so now that we're in that, it's like the disempowered to no end, that infinite loop on the hamster wheel of just distress and suffering. And we choose, okay, I'm hitting the radical acceptance button. So then now that I've hit that radical acceptance button, it doesn't just automatically free me. And I'm like, wow, yay, bliss. So if that was what it was, great. If that happens that quickly, amazing, wonderful, yay you, yay us. And a lot of times it's not. And so how do we begin to flex this muscle, and what do we do next? What are some steps that we can do or use or call and anchor in when we're in that space where we've hit the button? And now we need a protocol. So what is that protocol? What are some things that we can anchor in here?
Yeah, right. I mean, yoga comes to mind. If I do my first yoga class, I'm not going to nail that pose with perfect balance and perfect flexibility. And you're like, wow, she looks like she's been doing yoga 20 years, right?
Yeah.
No, same with radical acceptance. It's not like I can just push the button and do it perfectly. It takes practice. And we advocate daily practice, really conscious daily practice, where you can start with that asshole who just cut you off on the freeway when you're on your way to a job interview and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to look so bad because I'm going to be 5 minutes late now. Right? That moment, that's the moment where can't change it. You're going to be 5 minutes late. So it's that moment of, all right, I'm going to practice radical acceptance because this is what's so. I'm in a traffic jam. I'm going to be 5 minutes late. I can spend the next 20 minutes, the next 5 minutes and 20 minutes into my interview, right? Like resisting it and being angry, and I'll show up flustered and frustrated, and that's going to be in my space. Or I can choose to touch that radical acceptance button and experience the difference in my space, in my being, when I create a yes to what's so out there.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and just a couple of key points just to hit a little hammer in them is like what I heard you say, accepting. It doesn't mean I have to agree to the situation. And it's like that whole being in traffic and knowing that you've got someplace to go. The situation is what it is. If I could teleport, I'd get there faster. But since I can't, I'm here where I'm at. So I'm accepting that I'm here where I'm at. I still don't agree with the situation, but I accept it. I'm also accepting that, yes, this is the space that I am in this moment. And how do I choose to perceive this moment? Is life ending? Is this the apocalypse because of this moment? If no, then can I really choose to say yes to the fact that there's a lot that is going right in this moment for me and focus on that? And when I do that, then that is an easier feeling. It's a more open feeling to the resistance that I was focusing on, which was the resistance to that event in time, in space, versus the actual moment that I am in time and space. And so just having those little bits, and there's a few acceptance skills as well, that when we talk about acceptance, like what does that mean? How do we reach inner peace? How do we get to that moment where we're in full acceptance of the peace that we can cultivate within versus the resistance to the event outside of us?
Yeah. 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 So this is exactly the experience of moving through those challenging emotions into a space of acceptance. Like you said, it requires awareness of our emotional field, and it requires the intentional choice to not go into the suffering route, to go into the acceptance route.
Right. Yeah. And that's some of the qualities when we think about it, just if we're talking about the quality in general, maybe that is tolerance. Another one is non-judgment, and really getting in that space of allowing ourselves to be more, say, we're not going to say passive or active, but really more just a witness toward exactly what's happening and how we're responding to it. And when we're talking about it from that angle, then there is no judgment. There's no you're right, I'm wrong, or I'm right, you're wrong because I'm feeling some way or because you did something. It's just a witnessing of what is. And that's where we get into that space of non-judgmentalness.
Yeah. 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 Beautifully said.
What other points, what other qualities could help us jump into this state of acceptance?
Yeah, I would say it's the space of tuning in to notice that we're not accepting. That's the moment that we want to bring awareness to, because we might think it's all normal to be complaining about something because everybody complains about things. If you listen to people, there's a lot of non acceptance of what's so out there all the time. I think it's normalized in our experience to be in resistance to what's out there. So the skill to develop is knowing when we're resisting what's so.
Mm.
And then from there, we can choose to press the radical acceptance button and practice with smaller situations that are happening all the time. We practice with those small situations. So we build the grooves in our brain where we have the reflex to pause and feel the feelings and choose to accept them. When we
Mm.
practice that with the little traffic jams, then when it's a real issue in our home with our family, we've got those grooves to slow down, reflect, and practice acceptance.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet. Well, this has been really really informative and very beneficial, and looks like I have some new tricks and tools to help me with my daily yoga of
Yeah. Daily
practicing
yoga.
some more acceptance of my own. So thank you, Camila. I
Yeah.
appreciate you jumping on here.
Yeah. Thank you, Johnny. Great topic, great conversation. I'm going to go continue my daily practice of the radical acceptance.
Excellent. And thank you all for watching as well. If you have any other questions about radical acceptance, or if you would like maybe some guidance, some coaching, feel free to reach out to Camila or I, and we'll be happy to set up a discovery call with you. And those links will be in the comments below.
Yeah. You can find me at transformintolove.com. And Johnny,
And you can find me at johnnyvajra.com.